Hey, I wanted to make another video because some of the things I said in the last video kind of really just have to do with Mystery Babylon. And I did a video about Mystery Babylon, but I think there's more clarity that I have now. Some new revelations I have and things I just learned. So I just want to be more concise and make another video about Mystery Babylon, but it also ties into spiritual warfare and all of that. So what I've learned is that at the Tower of Babel, it was the people who chose to serve money, basically, over God. And I'll explain. Money is kind of we know from the Bible the money is the root of all evil. But the reason, sometimes people say that, and I don't think they really understand it, or they understand it in part. But I really believe the Lord has revealed to me that even Satan is controlled by, even Satan himself is controlled by money, and he hates it. Now, in Revelation 18, we see this. We see that the whore is symbolic of the city of Mystery Babylon that is going to be destroyed. But this whore, symbolic, rules over the 10 kings. And the 10 kings then come to hate her and want to leave her destitute and destroy her because they hate her, even Satan. Because the beast, of course, is Satan with 10 heads, right? So this city, the whore, is a city that rules the 10 kings, the 10 heads of Satan. So it actually rules him and controls him. So what controls Satan? That even Satan himself hates, that destroyed him. It's money. It's that desire. I mean, we know pride, but that it's all involved. That desire for status, for other people to worship you. And that is all created by money, by having more possessions than someone else, by having more things than someone else, so that someone else is then all of a sudden lower than you and has to worship you or work for things or buy things from you. And so God never made anything like that. God never made one human better than another human. God never designed or intended for there ever to be a system where one person would be above another human being. And in the millennial kingdom, it won't be that way. That's why Jesus is going to destroy Mystery Babylon, because this is what Mystery Babylon is. And that's my revelation. So at the Tower of Babel, basically these people that God created, and they knew what they were doing, they decided to follow after the fallen angels instead of God. They desired money and they desired status and things, and they wanted to build cities that made them better than other people and said, look at us, we're so much better than you. And that would give them this status over other people. All of that, is involved, that love of money over love of God. And they rejected God and they rejected God's ways. And God said, okay, if you want to serve these fallen angels instead of me, go. We have a free will. God's not going to force us. So he said, go. And the reason that the dragon has 10 heads is because God divided the people. We see it in Genesis, but also in Deuteronomy. I think it's 34 or 39. I have to check. But verse 8 and 9, it says that God divided the people at the time of the Tower of Babel. And he divided the people according to the amount of watchers that he had, the amount of fallen angels that were, I guess, chosen by the people. I mean, the people chose to worship them instead of God. And typically these type of towers were built to call upon these gods. They would do sacrifices, human sacrifices, animal. They would do all kinds of rituals or whatever to call on these fallen angels to get knowledge and, power from them. And so they were building this tower for those purposes. So they were choosing other gods over God, and God said, okay, go ahead. You want them? Fine, go. And he divided them because they were all united under one language, which was his language, I guess. And he said, okay, you want to follow them? And he divided them. And Deuteronomy says he divided them according to how many fallen angels there were. So there were 10, because there were 10 territories. There are 10 heads of the dragon. There's 10 kings. And there's always 10 kings. We see that there's 10 kings now, and we assume that it's like the EU or the UN, something like this, but it's not. It's the fallen angels. This is not, it's human. They rule over actual kingdoms and actual kings on earth that are human, but we're trying to figure out if it's Rome or if it's Babylon, and it's not. It is the 10 kings are the fallen angels that were assigned these 10 given these 10 territories, and the people at the Tower of Babel were divided by the number of 10 angels, so by 10, and they got into groups with the people that they found that spoke the language that they were speaking, and they migrated into these areas that were now given to these 10 fallen angels. And they were given to the fallen angels because the people themselves wanted that. The people wanted to serve these fallen angels instead of God. So God said, okay, he gave them 10 territories. The people migrated that spoke the language of those 10 territories. And that's how the 10 nations started, and these 10 heads of the dragon. So it's Satan that rules all of them, but it has 10 branches. And so that's why it's Mystery Babylon, because, and that's why the whore is riding the dragon with 10 heads. The whore is the city that controls the 10 kings, is what Revelation says. But the city isn't a city. It's Mystery Babylon because it was all originated with the Tower of Babel when God divided the people and the languages and gave them over to these fallen angels and these 10 territories. And that is why when Satan tempted Jesus, he said, he offered him his kingdoms. He says, you could have all of this if you bow to me. Well, he does own those 10 territories because God gave him those 10 territories, those 10 kingdoms, and they were given to him only because that's what the people wanted. They rejected God and they wanted to serve these fallen angels. Just like when the children of Israel wanted a king, and God was their king. And he was hurt. That's why he was hurt and grieved, because they wanted a king like the other nations. But God says right there in Deuteronomy that he kept Israel for himself, and that was his territory, that was God's. And he called Abraham out of Ur, and he said, I'm going to start over with you. And he had that territory. It was God's territory and the people that were going to be his. And then these people, can you imagine the hurt? Because it says that God was hurt when they asked for a king. Well, can you imagine, these people are called out because God kept them and they were God's people. The other 10 kingdoms and these people went with the fallen angels. They have now people that are ruling over them and making them slaves to them because that's what they wanted. That's what they asked for. And now God's people that he kept and called out for him in his territory now want to be like the other nations instead of having God as just their king. Can you imagine how hurtful that is? I you know what I mean? Now I get it. And so that's, he gave it to them though. He says, you want a king? You want to be like the other nations? Fine, I'll give you a king. And he still gave him a king. But then David and David's line, of course, is going to be, was eventually going to lead to Jesus. And Jesus then will he'll be the king of the millennial kingdom, but he'll also destroy Mystery Babylon. he also destroys, at the second coming, he destroys Mystery Babylon, which means these 10 territories, all of this monetary system, all of this division among people, all of the sin that it caused, all of the pain that it caused. He's going to destroy all of that, because God never intended for us. This, part of the revelation today about this happened when I realized I had to pay my water bill. And I'm like, I can't believe I have to pay for water. God gave us water on the earth, right? He gave us water, and the earth has enough provision for all the people he created, where we don't have to have any kind of monetary system. We could just live off the earth and the provision that God created. But it was Satan who decided to create this monetary system that would divide people, and not only divide people, but cause all of the sin, cause all of that, well, I'm better than you status, and looking down on others, or having that bitterness or jealousy, or having to steal, or having to be sick because you can't afford medicine, or you can't afford your rent and you're on the street, and all of the misery that is caused by this monetary system. And that is what Jesus is going to destroy when he destroys Mystery Babylon at his second coming. And he's going to set up now his kingdom on the earth, and he will then not have this monetary system. But you notice in the millennial kingdom, there is still going to be those 10 kings that still rebel. Satan's going to be released for a short time, and the people of the millennial kingdom will have their chance then to choose still. And there's still going to be some that rebel against Jesus, and be another battle. But it seems like the battle at the end of the millennial kingdom is like short, and it just ended like with a word from Jesus, and then it's just all done. Different than the battle of Armageddon at the end of this age before the millennial kingdom. But there's still those 10 kings, those 10 territories, and they were created because of the choice of the people at the Tower of Babel, because they chose the fallen angels. They chose these 10 kings over God. And so God then had Jesus eventually come from his territory and his people. And there was missionaries sent out into all the world, into all the other territories all over the world. Missionaries that could say, hey, you could come home, you can come back to Jesus. He made a way for you. He made a way for you to get out of this, not only this hell of monetary system, but being ruled over by this fallen angel. Instead, you can have Jesus as your king. You can choose Jesus as your king. And you could come home. You could come home and be grafted in to God's people, God's territory, which is, Israel and Zion. And it's also why nothing can touch Israel. And that's why Israel still stands. And nothing can touch Israel as we see what's going on now in the world. So I had that revelation today, but also that's why we speak in tongues. And the Bible says it's the language of angels. So at the Tower of Babel, languages were separated to divide the people according to the fallen angel territory that they went to, right? But now when Jesus paid for our sin and death and conquered all of this, and now had, this way for us to come back, he gave us a prayer language, which is the language of angels. And of course we speak the language of holy angels. But that ties in then, it's just so amazing, like all the things that tie in to this. And there was one more thought. I had, what was it? Oh, gosh, I want it to come to me. God help me. Well, I can't think of it now. But anyway, I had these revelations. And so that's the 10 kings. The 10 heads of the dragon are the 10 kingdoms, which are 10 kings. And that's what it's the fallen angels. It all comes from that moment at the Tower of Babel in Babylon. That's why it's Mystery Babylon. So all these people looking for, is it Rome? Is it Babylon? Is it the United States? It's none of those. It's Mystery Babylon because it starts from the Tower of Babel, all that happened then. God's going to just destroy it. When he returns with us, his bride, behind him, he's going to destroy this city. And we're going to then be under Jesus and his kingdom. And I'm just so amazed. I mean, there was one more thing I'm forgetting. I'll just have to add it in another video or something. But yeah, I'm just amazed. So that's what Mystery Babylon is. Mystery Babylon is money, but it's the 10 kings are these territories, because we still see Gog and Magog in the Millennial Kingdom. So it has to do with these territories, and these territories were given to these watcher angels, these fallen angels, because the people chose them. Because the people chose them over God. That's why it all started. I mean, that picture he painted is just like one big picture to like show everything, like show all of history in like one picture. Which is this horde that is the city that is controlling these 10 kings. Like, that's just, of course, genius because it's God. But I get it. I get it now. And so there you have it. I will, when I remember, I'm still trying to see if it'll come to me, but it didn't. So when I remember, I'll make another video. All right, please like, share, and subscribe. And I love you. God bless you.